I like that Holden Caulfield is someone that I can relate with. Holden is a teenager that seems to be dealing with a lot of problems and situations that people my age seem to be dealing with, or even me or my own friends. Holden is filled with a ton of anxiety, like of having to grow up in a place where he thinks that adults are all phonies, and he thinks that all adults, all they care about is impressing everyone else with their money or like luxuries or knowledge. I can really connect with Holden when he says this and understand him, because that's sometimes how I feel. I also think that it's admirable that Holden sees children as so innocent and wants to protect them and be the catcher in the rye. In addition, I don't like that Holden criticizes adults for being phonies. But he ends up acting like someone he's not and making stories about himself and his life, even though they're lies. This show that Holden is quick to judge others but isn't aware of when he's doing something wrong. And although I personally sympathize with Holden, he comes off as kind of whiny. In the beginning of the book, we realize that Holden comes from a well-off family because he goes to a prep school, and we later find out that his dad's a lawyer. But throughout the book, he's constantly complaining, which just makes him sound like an unthinking. I can identify or relate with Holden simply because he has actions that a regular teenager would. The biggest one being his desire for independence. In a teen's life, you feel as if you know what it takes to be a responsible, independent adult. But obviously, we haven't experienced the real world, and if we were likely to do so, we'd probably not be financially supported. Holden also wants to be independent and free, but does not have the maturity to be out on his own. That's why he goes back to his parents' apartment sooner than planned, and he also runs out of money and has to ask his sister Phoebe for $8 and change. Holden is stuck between childhood and adulthood, and I can totally relate with that because I'm currently going through that on my own. I think that Catcher in the Rye does deserve to be on these lists. The book is targeted for young readers, but it is a bit more scandalous than what students are used to reading, especially since it's an English classic. There is no denying that the book is filled with foul language, and many chapters aren't keeping it PG. Considering how the book is filled with sex, alcohol, and violence. However, these are things that we don't see every day. So is The Catcher in the Rye immoral, offensive, and subversive? Yeah, maybe. But these aren't things that we don't see every single day, and because of the media and how. Furthermore, I think the best word to describe Holden would be a phony. Like I said earlier, Holden was really uneasy with the fact that everyone around him was fake. However, he was unwilling to see that he was making stories about his own life. Holden thought that everyone around him that didn't act like a person was a phony. But Holden ends up being in situations where he does not act like a human. He does these things by ignoring his mental illness and not taking responsibilities for everything that Holden took a good look at himself, he would realize that he's just as bad as the actors. First, I thought that Catcher in the Rye being linked to assassination attempts was strange. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. The book on its own is a really depressing book, and I feel like it'd be very easy for someone to get attached to it. And the main character, Holden, is just an overall negative, very foul person. He seems to look at the bad side in everything, other than the fact that he doesn't like phonies because they're fake. And it emphasizes on actors. I think it's easy for someone to, as a guideline, to even kill someone. That being said, I don't think that it inspires anyone to kill someone, but maybe motivates someone to do it when they were already thinking that they were going to do it. I think if Holden lived in this day and age, he would definitely criticize how we idolize everyone in the media. I also think he would hate how much kids and teenagers rely on social media and how our generation low-key idolizes being fake and not real. Especially because Holden hates phonies and people who don't act like they're humans. I think this would really take him into shock considering what time he came from and how different and humble and the norms were different back then. So I think it'd really shock him and seeing how what we do is just basically technology and materialistic things. I think if I could give Holden any advice, I would definitely tell him to be a more positive person and have a more positive outlook on life. I think that would really help him mature as a person overall, because he's very negative and sees the nastiness that is not